So shall we start or shall we wait for 5 more minutes? Because only 5 of you are there. So I hope this was the last thing which we left, right? Then someone just messaged in the group for the others to join first. Okay, then we'll carry on. I think no one's joining. So lastly, we left at the part where we were discussing about the powers, privileges, and immunities of the members of the parliament. I think I have mentioned that the members of parliament enjoy individual privileges and powers as well as a group as whole or as a house as whole, right? That is, as a collective privileges and immunity, they enjoy some powers, and as well as they enjoy some privileges and powers as their individuals also. So I think I would have explained this slide, but yet I'm doing it again. So the freedom of speech in the house is subject to the rules framed by the house for both the houses, which are present in order to regulate the regular procedures of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So therefore, in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they would have mentioned that what are the behaviors or words that are not allowed. So certain words are not allowed to be used in the parliament, and those words are called as unparliamentary words. So you cannot just go curse your fellow parliamentarians while debating, right? So that freedom of speech is subject to the rules of procedures framed by the houses of that concerned house. You cannot discuss the conduct, or you cannot discuss anything about a Supreme Court judge or a High Court judge on the floor of Parliament unless and until there is a removal procedure for the judge which is going on. So you cannot discuss about a High Court judge or a Supreme Court judge except for a removal procedure which is being carried on in the Parliament's floor. Other than that, you cannot discuss about anything. These are the restrictions to freedom of speech on the grounds of Parliament. Also, you have immunity from proceedings in any court in respect of publication of paper or proceedings under the authority of either house of the Parliament. That is, you can publish anything in the Parliament, or you can publish anything you can publish anything in the media or to the public that about the proceedings of the parliaments. That is, the Parliament meets during 3 sessions a year, right? So whatever happens in the 3 session, or whatever happens in the general meetings of those 3 sessions, you can say it to the public, or you can reveal the reports to the public. That sort of immunity is given to you by the Parliament itself. Because you guys, I think so, you guys have heard about the Rajya Sabha TV and Lok Sabha TV. Has someone heard it? So there are two channels for the Parliament, right? One is the Lok Sabha TV and the other one is the Rajya Sabha TV. So in these channels, you find the proceedings which are being live telecast. So when the session is going, budget session, or when the monsoon session or the winter session is going on, you will be telecasted the actual proceedings of the Rajya Sabha TV. What happens in the Rajya Sabha, right? So the the press gets its immunity from this freedom. You get exemption, that is, you get exemption from liability to serve as jurors. That is, when the Parliament is in session, right? You can deny to be as a juror in any court, right? So that is an individual privilege which is given to a member. Can someone explain me what a juror is? Anyone? Like, it's related to jury, right? I've given you a hint. Can someone explain? Okay, I'll tell you. So juror is nothing but you can deny yourself to be present in the court due to the proceedings of the Parliament, right? That is, when you're accused, you cannot deny yourself to be present in the court. But you can deny yourself to be present in the court when you are called as a witness, or when you are called as something else. So that is the only exception that is being granted to you. So these are the privileges and freedoms that are given to the members of Parliament. Any doubts in this? So next is the sessions of Parliament. So the President has to approve for the starting of the Parliament. That is, the consent of the President is required, right? You cannot just right away start the session as the Speaker thinks, or as the Prime Minister thinks. It's obviously they who decide upon the date of the commencement of the Parliament. But even though the Speaker and the Prime Minister or the ruling party decides when the parliament session starts, they have to get the consent of the president before the commencement of the parliamentary session. Okay, so according to the Constitution of India, there must be minimum two sessions held in a year, which there should not be more than 6 months of gap between two sessions. So the maximum gap between two sessions is 6 months. So therefore, two sessions per year is compulsory. But at present, we have three sessions which are being held in the parliament. Right? One is the budget session, other is the monsoon session, another is the winter session. So usually budget session goes on from February to May. At max, it goes for the month of February only. It gets over by Feb and March. So it doesn't extend beyond it. So this time period is given as a whole thing, right? But cumulatively, if you see, the parliament takes a session for around 20 days and so that's it. So it doesn't extend beyond 20 to 30 days as a whole per session, right? So budget session usually goes on from Feb. It starts at Feb. So monsoon session starts anywhere around July or August. And winter session is the shortest session, which goes on from November to December. The session which is going on at present is called as the winter session. So I hope you guys are following the current affairs, right? Because there is a bill which is bringing a lot of debates on the floor of parliament now. So it's better that you guys are in touch with your current affairs and you follow the current affairs, right? So the bill which is bringing on a lot of attention is the One Nation, One Election. So it's better you guys know about this bill because as in the current affairs, it can be either asked in your exams or if it's not asked in your exams, then for sure it will be asked in your SSBs. So these are the three sessions of the parliament. So next is the termination of a sitting. So for the commencement of the parliament, you need the consent of the president, right? Similar to that, termination of a sitting also requires the consent of the president. So termination requires the consent of the president. Under termination, you have various set of agendas which are being followed. So we'll see what are the agendas and what are the permissions required and who is the approving authority. So dissolving of the Lok Sabha. So you guys know that while we discussed the prime minister, we saw that the prime minister can dissolve the Lok Sabha even before the expiry of 5 years of term of that particular Lok Sabha, right? Or extend it beyond 5 years during the proclamation of emergency, that is during national emergencies proclamation. So there are two instances. So in both the instances, the president has to approve it or the president dissolves the Lok Sabha on the advice of the prime minister. So it's obviously the prime minister's decision and the president approves it, right? So that is what dissolution of the Lok Sabha is. So next is the prorogation. So prorogation is a termination of a session of a house or by an order made by the president under the Article 85 Clause 2. Right. So we guys have seen about the three sessions, right? So the break between the two sessions is called as the prorogation. So when there is a break between two sessions of the parliament, or when there is a termination of sitting, or when there is a session of parliament going on, and to conclude the session, prorogation is done. Right. Adjournment next is adjournment. So adjournment is it does not put an end to the session. That is it. It is not between the two sessions, but within a session. To make you easily understand, that is the explanation. So adjournment is nothing but a break within a session. That is when there is a budget session, the break between two sessions. That is, you will have morning session and evening session. So the break between these two things, the lunch break or anything. So it does not put an end to the existing session of the parliament, but it merely postpones the further transaction of business for a specified time or hours or days or weeks. So you might have seen certain videos that where the parliamentarians fight between themselves. So at that time, the Speaker of the House adjourns the House, right, saying the meeting will be conducted tomorrow morning or day after morning. So that is what adjournment means. So adjournment is nothing but it is a break between the two business hours of the parliament. But here you know when the next session of the parliament or the next session comes in. So another thing which is related to adjournment is that adjournment synodite. Right. Adjournment synodite. So this is nothing but similar to the adjournment thing, but you will not know when the house will commence next. So while the house is being adjourned, the next sitting will not be announced. Right. So that is called this adjournment synodite. So this is a subset of the adjournment. So just for your knowledge, it's not required. It's not asked in the exams. So next is the joint sessions. So joint sessions are basically approved, or the joint sessions called upon by the president, right? So when there is a deadlock in the bill, the prime minister can approach the president and ask for a joint sitting. If the president deems so, or if the president thinks the joint sitting is required for the certain bill to be passed, then the president can call upon for a joint sitting. Please note, only the president can call upon for the joint sitting, not the speaker of the Lok Sabha or speaker of the the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. It is obviously the president who has to call up for the joint sitting. Right. Also, during the joint sitting, it is the Speaker of Lok Sabha who will preside over the joint sitting. The chairman of Rajya Sabha will not preside. It is obviously the Speaker of the Lok Sabha who is going to preside over the joint sitting. So, what are the cases when joint sitting is commenced? So, it is ordered by the President to consider a particular bill in case of, right, I'm telling you where the President will call for the joint sitting. So when the bill is passed by one house and rejected by the other house, if it is passed by Lok Sabha and if it is rejected by Rajya Sabha, then joint sitting will be called to debate and resolve the dispute between the bills. The amendment made by the other house are not acceptable by the other house where the bill originated. For example, a bill originated in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha has made some amendments to the bill and passed it back to Lok Sabha asking it to pass the bill. But Lok Sabha thinks that if that amendment is made, then the bill nature gets destroyed. Therefore, it can say that no, we cannot make an amendment. So therefore, there is a tie which is arising between them, right? So there a joint session will be called in. So when the bill remains pending or unpassed for more than 6 months. So if Lok Sabha passes a bill and Rajya Sabha holds the bill without acting upon it for anything, or if it's not reacting to anything in the bill for 6 months, then the Lok Sabha considers the bill to be unpassed because the Rajya Sabha has not acted upon it, right? So then the Lok Sabha can ask for a joint sitting. But there are certain rules for the joint sitting also which will not apply for joint sitting. That is, you cannot hold joint sitting for every bill. Okay. Joint sitting cannot be held for every bill. So which are the bills joint sitting cannot be or will not be applicable? So joint sitting is not applicable to the money bill. So money bill cannot be brought in a joint sitting. Also, during a joint sitting, no constitutional amendment bills can be passed. So these both bills have to be passed in their respective houses in the normal proceedings. If not, or if there is any tie which is arising in the Constitutional Amendment Act or Constitutional Amendment Bill, then it has to be solved between the both houses as a normal proceeding, and it will not be solved between a joint session. So that is the only. Also, there are certain clauses which will be carried on during a joint session. That is, okay, I'll tell you later. So joint session of the parliament is presided by the Speaker of the Parliament, Speaker of the Lok Sabha. In his absence, the Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha will take over. And if also the Deputy Speaker is absent, then the Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha takes over. So clearly from this point, you can know that the Chairman of Rajya Sabha does not participate in the joint session. Okay. So even if the Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha is absent and the Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha is absent, then anyone who is acceptable by both the houses of the Parliament can preside over the joint session. So the deadlock over the bill is resolved by a majority of the members of both the houses present and voting. Then the bill is passed in the joint session. Okay. So 543 is the Lok Sabha strength and 245 is the Rajya Sabha strength. Therefore, you have total 718 members. 394 is the halfway mark. If the bill gets 395, then the bill is passed, right? Logically, in the joint session, it's obviously the Lok Sabha which wins. Because due to its majority of 543, if Lok Sabha wants a bill to be passed, then its members is enough for it to get the bill passed in the joint session. So that is the reason why constitutional amendment bills are not allowed to be taken in a joint session, because that can go against the will of the states. So a main point in the joint session is that no fresh amendments can be done in a joint session or anything which has led to a tie for the joint session or for the disapproval between any houses can be discussed. No fresh amendments or no fresh bill can be brought in joint session. The existing bill can be discussed in the joint session, and the part where there has a tie been raised, because at this point we said, right, if there is a amendment made by the bill and the original house doesn't accept it, then it's obviously the privilege of the house to discuss those points. But you cannot bring in new points, because that will bring in more and more debates, and it'll lead to a unresolved dispute. Okay, so there are no provisions for joint session for passing a money bill, constitutional amendment, acts, or bill. So this is the clause for the joint session. Also, another point is that so you can make amendments, but you can make amendments. Those amendments should be of nature. Note this down because I have not given this in slides. So those amendments which might have caused delay in the causing of passing of bill. So there might have been a necessary amendment for this bill, which should have been enacted so as this bill could have been passed in the previous session itself. But those amendments would have not been enacted. So those amendments can be carried out. So only these two types of amendments are allowed. That is one which arise the deadlock, other which amendment is required because that bill can be passed. Okay. Any doubts?
No, sir.
So next is the mechanisms of the parliamentary proceedings. So what are the things which happen during the parliamentary proceedings is the following thing which I going to see. There are various instruments which are in the parliament. Like you see beneath, that is the question hour, 0 hour. These are the mechanisms which are in the parliament, like the set of rules which carry on the parliamentary proceedings. Part where the members ask questions to the ministers or to any concerned departments or anyone, right? So it's not mentioned in the constitution. It is mentioned in the rules of procedures of both the houses. Note this one, because this has been a question previously. Question R is mentioned in the parliament or not was the question. So it is not mentioned in the constitution, it is mentioned in the rules of procedures of the parliament. So that is the thing. So the first hour of the sitting of the Lok Sabha is devoted to the questions, and it's called as the question hour. So any sitting, that is when the day starts or when the session starts, the first hour is given to the question hour. That is, the members of parliament ask questions to the ministers or ask questions to the executives. So the questions are of three types. One is the start question, the other is the unstart question, and the other is the short notice question. Right, distinguished by an asterisk. So it is distinguished by this symbol. So this type of question requires you to give a oral answer. Right, oral answer is required here, and supplementary questions can follow, because once you ask one question, you give an answer, there can be a question which arises out of that question answer itself. So therefore, start questions are oral questions, and they have to be answered by the minister on the floor of the parliament itself. So it is like the normal question answer session. So it is one which a member desires an oral answer from the minister of the house, and is required to be distinguished by him with an asterisk. Answer to such a question may be followed by a supplementary question of the members. So that is what start question is. An unstart question is, on the other hand, requires a written answer. So therefore, the supplementary answers cannot follow, because the questions will be put forward and you need to give a detailed answer for that question. Right. So it is one which is written, answer is desired an oral answer from the minister. It is distinguished by him or her within, so it doesn't contain asterisks. Just a minute, I'll check this later and I'll tell you this. Okay. So it cannot follow any. So answer to such questions may not follow. It's like may not follow. There is a typing error here. May not follow. Please correct this thing. So may not follow a supplementary question by the members. So next is the short notice question. So what is the short notice question? A short notice question is something where 15 days of time will be given for you. Okay. So that is the question is given to you prior to certain time or certain days. So you require to give a detailed answer for that question in written manner. So those questions will be of the public importance. So a member may give a notice question on a matter of public importance and of urgent character for oral answer at a notice less than 15 days, prescribed as a minimum period of notice for asking a question in ordinary course. Such a question is known as short notice question. That is, a notice of 15 days and beneath is given, and you are required to give a written answer or an oral answer. Mostly, it is answered orally. It's not given in written form. Maximum times, that is 99% of times, it is given in oral terms. Right. So, addition to these things, the private members can ask questions to the ministers or anything. So, those are the normal questions, which are apart from the start and short. So, they are asked in the floor of the parliament. So, next is the difference between these three types of questions is the color of paper they are printed on. So, I think so. A start question is printed on a green sheet, and start white sheet, and short note is in light pink or yellow color or nothing. So they have their own colors. The color doesn't matter, but they are printed in different color sheets for easy identifications. Right. So next is the 0 hour. So 0 hour is also not mentioned in the constitution. It is Indian innovation. That is, it is the Indians innovation. So it doesn't exist anywhere in the world. It is only in the Indian Parliament. So it is also mentioned in the rules of procedure and not in the constitution. Okay, so that is the main thing. So the period follows the question hour and it starts at around noon and the duration is around for 1 hour. Okay, so it is between the normal proceedings and the question hour. So during the 0 hour, various issues of public importance are raised without any prior notice. Right, there is no prior notice here. Please note there. So if at all there is a riot going on at various places of the country, or if there is any calamity or if there is any disaster which has happened at any place of the country, then it can be brought in and discussed in the 0 hour. Right. So it doesn't require any prior notice.
Excuse me, sir. So for implementing those emergencies will be talked under this 0 hour or under normal
emergencies will
legislation
be in the normal proceedings. Right.
Okay, sir.
So this 0 hour is generally for discussing the matters of public importance. That is, for example, a few days back, Manipur violence was there, right? Manipur
Yes,
riots
sir.
were there.
Yes, sir.
So if at all the parliamentarians want to discuss about this Manipur case, they can bring it in the 0 hour. They can ask questions to the ruling parties, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you name something which has been going on the recent days? Anything which holds a huge public importance or something?
Sir, if I say that one election, one nation,
one nation, one election is already a bill. So that will be debated in the normal
yes.
proceedings. So
Okay,
if we can take an example of during Diwali, the pollution level in the national capital region, NCR region, was so high, right? So this is a matter of public concern. So they can bring in this topic
Yes, sir.
during the 0 hour and they can discuss anything or they can ask questions. What are the methods or what are the prevention methods or what are the solutions for these things? Right. So they can demand data from the National Pollution Control Board. So what is being done by the National Pollution Control Board, or what has the government done in order to bring the pollution levels down? So there can be any questions, right? So that is what these are happens.
So for emergency, there would be a prior consultation notification from the governor or CM?
No, emergency, there are three types of emergencies, right?
Yes, sir.
National,
National,
president's rule, and financial emergency.
financial, sir. Yes, sir.
If at all the president's rule wants to be implemented, no consultation will be with the chief minister.
Yes, sir.
The
Yes, sir.
governor gives a report to the president that there is a constitutional breakdown in the particular state.
Constitutional
So it is
machinery
the-
breakdowns.
Can you come again?
Machinery, sir.
Breakdown. Okay. Constitutional machinery breakdown is there in the certain state.
Yes.
So obviously, then the president passes the president's rule in that particular state. So the president cannot pass on his own. It is the decision of the Council of Ministers and the Prime Minister. So the president passes the rule. So when the president passes the rule, the governor acts as the direct subordinate of the president, and he takes control over the state or control over a particular area. During emergency declaration, no one is consulted from the states. If there is a requirement, the emergency is being implemented by the parliament.
Yes, sir. Got it.
For this emergency to be implemented, it has to be passed in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay. So before the president implements the rule, it has to be passed by the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So we'll speak about this in detail during the emergency class, right? So this follows a set of procedures I'll tell you, because there are exceptions and there are also certain rules to be followed, because you cannot just go to the parliament saying that there is a war coming, so you just pass the bill for emergency. No. So emergency is declared even before the both approve. I'll tell you what it is in the emergency chapter. Dinesh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So that's what is with the 0R and the question R.
Yes,
so
sir.
next are the parliamentary proposals. That is what type of motions are carried on in the parliament. So there are certain motions and there are certain type of, there is the motions are nothing but a proceeding which has its own name. Okay. It is given names because it can be easily identified, right? So the first is nothing but, okay, before seeing these things, let me tell you some other thing. So prior to those motions, there are other three motions, right? The three motions are, they're nothing but they are moved by the members of the parliament to raise discussion on various matters which fall into three categories. So they are nothing but substantive motion. Substantive motion is one thing. Other is the substitute motion and subsidiary motion. So I have not given these things in the slide. Please note it. So substantive motion, substitute motion, and subsidiary motion. What does these motions mean? So substantive motion is nothing but it is a self-contained independent motion, right? So please note it. Substantive motion is nothing but it is self-contained independent motion. Self-contained independent motion. It deals with important matters. That is very important matters. So it is a self-contained independent motion, and it has importance of very high. Very high importance is given to this thing, or very high important matters are discussed in this thing. Like, for example, impeachment of the president, that is removal of the president, or removal of the governor, or removal of the chief election commissioner, removal of a Supreme Court judge, High Court judge, or these are the things which are of higher importance, right? So they have their self-contained independence. So impeachment of president doesn't require any separate law to be passed in order to that bill for to be accepted. So that is what a substantive motion is. So if at all there has to be a removal of president initiated, then the substantive motion will be passed, stating that there is an important matter which is coming in. So for this is given that is it is given more attention, and this has to be brought in before other bills which are being waiting to be discussed. That is what substantive motion is. So next is the subsidiary motion. So substitute motion is nothing but this motion is moved in order to substitute the original proceeding which is going on in the parliament, right? It is done in order to change the proceeding which is going in the parliament. So it supersedes the original motion. For example, if there is a matter which is being discussed, for example, a bill X is being discussed, but the parliamentarians think that bill Y holds more importance than this bill. So they have to discuss this bill now, pushing this bill backward, because this can be discussed later on because this doesn't hold that much of importance. but this has a larger importance. Then they will move a substitute motion stating that this bill has to be discussed. Therefore, if it is passed, then this bill supersedes this bill. Okay, so that is what a substitute motion is. So next is the subsidiary motion. This motion by itself has no meaning, and it cannot state the decision of the House without reference to the original motion, right? So it does not have any importance by itself. So this doesn't hold any importance for itself, but it can have its importance or it has its originality only with the reference to the original motion. Three types or three subcategories. You can say it as subcategories. So one is the ancillary motion, the other is the superseding motion, and the last one is the amendment. So ancillary motion, that is under subsidiary motion, ancillary motion is used as a regular way to proceed, regular way of proceeding with the various kinds of businesses. Okay, so if at all something has to go on with the current bill which is being discussed, then ancillary bill is passed normally. That is the normal proceeding which is being done. So superseding motion is done in order to supersede or to oversee the debate which is going on with another issue. So it is similar to the substitute motion. So substitute motion, you substitute the current proceeding with some other thing. But here, superseding, here you oversee the current thing with a matter of higher importance. So that is what superseding is. So the amendment is that during the current proceeding of the bill, if the parliamentarians or if the members of the parliament think that a certain part of the bill can be amended so as the bill develops itself or it holds more importance when that particular part of a bill is deleted, then the members can move an amendment proceeding or an amendment motion stating or asking for the amendment of a particular part of a bill. Can you come again?
So doctrine of severability applies for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
It applies. Right. So that is what amendability is. So these are the motions which you have to know before knowing the other motions. So there are various types of motions like calling attention motion, privilege motion, adjournment motion, no conference motion, censor motion. So these all hold their own importance. That is calling attention motion is nothing but with the prior permission of the speaker, any member of the parliament may call attention to a minister or matter of urgent public importance. As I mentioned you guys about the Manipur riot. So during this riot, this motion was used by the opposition party to call upon the attention of the ruling party, and they asked about the brief statement about what happens in the what is happening in Manipur, and what are the resolutions which have been taken in order to bring peace back in this region. So that is what calling attention motion is. So it is always done with the prior permission of the speaker. Don't forget this point. Prior permission of the speaker is required. So next, second is the privilege motion.
Excuse me, sir.
So this, yeah, Dinesh.
So we are running low of time, sir. It's around less than 1 minute. We are having some.
So do you have a class next?
No, sir. We don't have.
Okay, no issues then. So is a meeting like has any settings like auto close something?
Yes, sir. I think so. I think this is about regarding recording, I guess.
Yeah, it's getting recorded, but
it says it's going to. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The scheduled meeting time is almost over. Yes, sir.
Then I'll just mark the attendance first and we'll continue for 5 more minutes. No issues then. Okay, the privilege motion is nothing but there is a motion moved by a member of the parliament, right? So he charges the minister with committing breach of privilege of the house by withholding or distorting facts. So it is nothing but a complaint which is being raised by a member upon a minister or a person who is in power, that is, who holds a special place. So it is regularly related with the privileges of the members. So if at all a member breaches the privilege or anything which has been given to him, then the privilege motion will be brought into play. So there was actually a case upon a member of parliament a few months back, stating she has misused her power. I don't want to name her, but there was a lot of committees which have been set up in order to discuss those things. Right. So we'll stop here and we'll see these things tomorrow. Right.